What's up, geniuses? Welcome back to For the Record. I'm your host, Rob Markman. Now, today's guest is one of the game's elite lyricists, and he has the gold and platinum plaques to back it up, all right? He is here today. His sixth album is out now. He says it's his last album, and I say, wow, that's crazy.
I like that.
Wale,
What's up with you?
welcome to For the Record, brother.
Let's do it.
How you doing? How you feeling?
I'm good.
Yeah?
Torn, promoting this album, staying positive,
Nah, well, you got a lot to be positive about,
Yeah.
man. You put out a really dope body of work again.
Thank you.
Because I think you have great albums in your discography from Ambition, I think is a classic.
Yes.
I think The
Appreciate it.
Gifted, amazing body of work. I think
Thank
the
you.
album About Nothing, amazing body of work.
you
So
so much.
we kind of know what to expect
Mhm.
from you. But like I said in the intro, 6 albums your last. You have this lyric, okay, sue me, I'm rooting for everybody that's black. Everybody Be Ashes is my 6th album, my last.
Right.
So that's the first question. I just need to get that out.
I mean,
the
the
way.
answers in the music, I can't. I mean, if I give you that, ain't no point in watching the movie. You feel me?
Right,
That's why we don't go on Wikipedia and read about a movie before we watch it.
right.
So I just gotta leave that into the I gotta leave them something.
Right. Nah, for real. But you talk about a lot of this album is about how the industry weighs on you too. Like you had this concept of and I heard you talk about it in another interview. I think it was the Breakfast Club interview of PTSD
Mhm.
from the music business. And I think typically that's something that we associate with war.
Mhm.
Or growing up in the hood and
Right.
gunshots, and it's more of a violent thing.
Right.
But this concept of PTSD based off of your job, your career, can you talk about
Your
that a
life.
little bit?
You put so much of your life and your world is invested in succeeding because you got to take care of this person, that person, and yourself. Or what are you gonna do if you can't do this? And to see it crumbling before you, and there's nothing you can do. It triggers you, and how it triggers you, and it compromises the way you think moving forward. You know what I'm saying? And in my case, it's been to a point where it's like me dealing with failure has compromised the way I talk to people, where I am in a room, the way my body language is, the way I sleep at night, and then certain things will bring me back to that place, you know what I'm saying? But, everybody got their own little idiosyncrasies that they got with them, but I was just saying, for myself and my job, my profession, I was wired differently somewhere along the way.
Right. Do you feel like, because I feel like sometimes, I think that's part of what makes you great. Like if you accept the total package of Wale, I don't know if, you look at things very differently with a microscope and you analyze a lot. But I look at that, right? Like somebody can be like, yo, maybe he's overanalyzing the situation. But that same thing is the reason why we get the details and the
Right.
lyrics that we get.
Yeah.
So it comes from the same
Yeah,
place.
absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
So you agree? You see that? within
Yeah,
yourself?
that's what Virgos do. Generally, they overanalyze everything. It's a hindrance, but it's also a blessing too because you pay a lot of attention to detail.
Right. Nah, super. I want to go to the album side of Wow, that's crazy. Because I feel like there's duality there too, right? Like that's almost a response to anything. Like if it's something really kind of going on that's a big deal. Wow, that's crazy.
Right.
And sometimes people just use that phrase when they don't know what to say. Like
Exactly.
you told me something that I don't know how to process.
Right.
And
It's
all I
wow,
can
that's
say is,
crazy.
wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. And everything in between, the highs, the lows, and everything in between. That's pretty much what it means.
Okay, dope. I think a highlight for the album, I think the intro, I think you start out with Sue Me. And I think, it's funny when the album drops and you kind of get to have like these listening parties with social media and you see people discovering things in real
Right.
time. And
Mhm.
certain people can't get to track 2
Right.
because
Mhm.
they got to rewind
Right.
track 1
Absolutely.
because it has that feeling. Sue Me is one of those. Obviously, it's a nod to Issa's Rae comment
Mhm.
on the Emmy red carpet. I'm rooting for everybody that's black. But you kind of took it a step further and made it that phrase and made it extremely personal
Right.
to you.
She made it a hot line. I made it a hot song. Mhm.
Talk about kind of the process. I saw you tweeted too, like the second verse was inspired like a
Yeah.
flight after Essence Fest, right?
Yeah,
Like Bobby
yeah.
Brown,
Mhm.
Lena Waithe was on the flight.
Yeah,
Like, so
absolutely.
kind of talk about the things that inspired this record.
Man, it was, it was a lot of blunts ago, but me and Lena was talking about it's something we was talking about. She was like, yeah, we just some niggas in first class. You know what I'm saying? Like, and and that joint just stuck with me, like, cause it was all successful black people in first class, like Bobby Brown up there, Holly Robinson Pete up there. I forgot that politician's name the older woman. Everybody gonna kill me for forgetting her name, but she was there too. I think maybe Yar Shahidi. Like it was a rockers on there because after Essence, and I was like, man, like, and then like she was right above me, and I just like I'm bothering her the whole flight, like, and like we was just like it's like beautiful, like it's just a whole bunch of niggas in first class right now, and it just like that was the first song I wrote when I went back home after that.
Right. No, that's hard. But so you don't start the process, like you kind of live in the moment and then
It
recall it
just
and
when
then
I heard
write.
that beat, I was like, oh okay, this, you know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? I just got into it, and I just started thinking about that day.
That's hard, man. Nah,
Cause I told you I can't write. I gotta write in the studio. It's just I don't got the patience to write. Like just I'll just do something else. I gotta be sitting there with the music.
right. Yeah. We definitely had that
Mhm.
conversation before. And it's cool thinking about your process. Like I seen you in the studio and I see things just come
Mhm.
out of thin air. Like, you know what I'm saying? I'm the type, like I get inspired by what's in the moment. Sometimes I will just stop to jot down a couple
Right.
lines. And
I
you was
wish
telling
I
me,
had I wish I could do that. Like I wish I could be like, but I'll be writing and I'm like, man, when am I even gonna be able to record it? Like,
right.
am I gonna remember how to do it? Am I gonna care? Am I gonna find the right beat? Like it's tragic.
Right now, it's ill. You also tweeted another record, semi-automatic.
Right.
I feel like it's a dope record. Love Me
Mhm.
Nina, semi-automatic is kind
Mhm.
of back to back. You tweeted that Cole is the sole reason that this exists.
Mhm.
So I gotta ask the question, how so?
So one day I was in the studio. I was getting ready to leave. I was like, man, I don't feel today. And I was like, we was just talking about regular stuff. And then he didn't know I was in the studio. I was like, give me a word. So whatever words you give me, I'm just gonna make a song about it. I'll find some way. And he told me, and I was like, I'll call you right back. And then like he called me like later that night, and he's like, I was like, this song probably gonna go on the album. So I just let you hear it when it come out.
So he hadn't heard it until
Mm-mm.
it dropped.
And he heard it. He heard it on Friday, last Friday.
So did he give you a reaction? Did y'all
He
chat
he
it up?
tell he wrote something. He wrote something like something special.
So, what was kind of the plan in doubling that up with Love Me Nina? Because it kind of it's 2 tracks in one.
I mean, I'm going through like kind of a mental breakdown because I'm talking to like inanimate object. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I'm talking to a gun
To the gun.
and talking to a spirit. So, I'm going through like self reflection, self consciousness, and like social issues with what would Nina Simone say about this, that, and the third, and then I go in the semi-auto like my brain is a powerful weapon. When used incorrectly, it's dangerous.
Right. What it's funny though, because in the speech that you sampled at the beginning of Nina Simone, just talking about what her mission is and what her job is to get people to realize things about themselves, even if they're not ready to. Do you feel as if you're an extension of that?
What
I
you-
mean, because I do. I feel like you're a bit of the realization of what she was saying. You know what I'm saying? I think just the way you're honest in your music, the
right.
way you're very clear about where you come from, what you represent,
Yeah,
and where you want the
she's
people to go.
strong-minded. She's a strong-minded woman, and she's influential to like a lot of artists, like just young, gifted, and black. Like you know what I'm saying? Like that's a big thing. That's a big title to live by.
Right. Nah, man, that's dope. And you talk about kind of like on semi-automatic, like the recklessness of how the focus of being a gun and aiming at your target could be very direct.
Right.
And then sometimes it's just like, man, I'm spraying at
Yeah,
everything.
exactly. And it's like you making the wrong decisions, but you're doing it in the anger. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Speaking, one thing that, and we were talking about Cole earlier. I want to go back just a little bit, False Prophets and Groundhog's Day, right? And what that was, because I felt like that could have been a semi-automatic moment of things coming out in anger, but I felt like that was kind of very controlled. I say that to say I don't know if a lot of MCs, artists, and a testament to y'all relationship could express themselves on records like that with opposing views and then not be at war after.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
I mean, I pride myself on being able to do that because E was the first person that called me when it came out. E was like, bro, I'm so glad you did it this way. Like it's so it's honorable. Like it wasn't you didn't take it the wrong way because nobody he's like, bro, you know how you are. Niggas don't know how you gonna react to nothing. So, but no, it was good because like I wrote it. It was done in 24 hours. People thought I had heard it before it came out, but I just went right to work on that motherfucker.
But I think that was like we were seeing it in real time, the real emotions, the real feelings.
I ain't tweet nothing. I just shut up and then went right to the booth.
Nah, it was dope, and like I said, it could have been. I don't know how I would have handled it. I don't know if a lot of
But I
people
know
would
you
have
gotta
handled it the
remember
right
that's
way.
my real friend
Right.
though. So I knew it wasn't like that. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like I knew it wasn't like on some like, you know, it's just and that's how he was at that time, that's how he was talking to me. Like
Mm-hmm.
that was where his opinions, and I had my opinions too.
Mm-hmm. Before we get back into the new album, Wow, That's Crazy, there was because like as I was researching it, it made me think of Groundhog's Day, False Prophets, and how it was a very controlled thing. And I was researching it. There was a line there, you know, about Cudi. You know, I ain't forget that Scott talking down on
Right.
interviews. I feel like though you're in such an elevated place. Like, do you think y'all could ever fix that?
I don't know because every time we fix it, it just get weird
You
again.
know.
You know what I'm saying? I don't got no problem with
Mhm.
him. Something just happened one time. Everything was cool. We did focus, whatever, and then with some issues with like like fixing a part up that like whatever some artist stuff, and then I'm hearing this from his side, I'm hearing this from my side, but I was like it wasn't no thing because I deal with some of the things he deal with, and I was just trying to keep it cordial, and I think around the time when I had my daughter, I was like invited him to something, and he just like went completely
Wow.
left. And whatever, like I ain't trying to air that man out.
Mm.
This ain't that. That joint just kind of made me like, damn. I thought we was building. I like, I'm not looking for nothing. I was just inviting you to take some baby shower, whatever
Right. Right.
was. But I mean, like I said, we both grown. We both got our own kids and our own families, our own careers. Like, I just ain't forget that joint. Like,
Right.
and at that point, it was frustrating because I know what I was dealing with mentally and internally, and I felt like I got kicked down by like magazines when I was like in limbo of my career with Interscope. Like, you know what I'm saying? I got kicked.
Right.
Well, I wasn't uplifted for nothing. So I just that's something that's a scar that I always wore with me. You know what I'm saying? Like I never forget how the media and certain people made me feel. You know what I'm saying? But again, it's water under the bridge, like,
Mm.
because black men can't speak out about anything
Right.
or it's whining
And,
and complaining and
and,
all
and
that.
you know, I bring it up as because you know me and you know what my intentions are to really kind of talk about the music and uplift. And I kind of bring it up because I see a place that you're at. I see a place that he's at. And I think a lot of, like y'all speak to similar things in very different ways.
Right.
And I could see a moment of reconciliation. And I think it will mean a lot to the fans. I think it will mean a lot to y'all. Hopefully y'all can get there. That's
Well,
why
I
I
mean,
asked.
I'm glad he's happy. He's
Mhm.
been through a lot. I've been through a lot. He's a legend to the culture. You know what I'm saying? I respect everything he does. It was just disappointing how things like kind of panned
Mhm.
out, or how they did when opposed to how it was when we first started. And we were just running around Soho together.
Yeah, man, and you know the fact that you could acknowledge, Cuddy as an icon and a legend in this thing. I say the same thing about Wale,
Mm-hmm.
and we say that anybody who watches the show and we have our discussions or whatever our panel discussions, your name comes up often, and we're gonna uphold that because I think you put so much in the music. One of my favorite songs on this album might be my favorite at the moment, assuming and automatic favorite. I think we gotta put that to the side. That
Mm-hmm.
record's so great. But Expectations
Right.
might be my favorite song. I just like the perspective between the first verse and the second verse.
Mm-hmm.
First verse about you,
Mm-hmm.
and then the second verse you go into body dysmorphia and how a woman might feel in that situation. What experience made you want to take that approach?
I mean, this is excuse me, this is a generation. This the culture. Instant gratification is always constantly working, and is always constantly affecting the way that these young women feel about themselves. And then there's apps that'll literally change your body. And the next person, a more impressionable person, is gonna see that and think that's something that they can acquire, whether by doctor or otherwise. And if they can't, they start to think that what they got is insufficient. So I think that happens more times than people really realize.
Right. One of the dope things too, man, and we talk about kind of bars with you and the witty and the punchlines, right?
Mm,
But this function of songwriting, and I want to know how purposeful it was, because in your verse you start off, look, the winter's here, depression is tripling.
hmm
So we in winter
Right.
right now in the first verse. When you go to the second verse and you start talking about this woman who's going through these things, the first line is summer's approaching. She look in the mirror. She wish it was winter.
Yeah. Exactly.
So the way you play with seasons just through verse one and verse two
hmm
to me was ill. How
Right.
deliberate is that, like in the
Always.
songwriting
It's
process?
99% of the time intentional. I can't write it the other way. Like I knew I'm telling a story. I want some type of continuity. I want you to close your eyes and envision these seasons, you envision these moments. You know, it's dark. It's seasonal depression. And, you know, then it's about to be summer. Now you wish your body was looking like a summertime body. You know what I'm saying? Like these things are common. You know, this happens in the summer. This happens in the winter. And as a writer, just the continuity and the way that's the thread of thought that goes from it's winter into summer's approaching and everything in between. It takes you on a journey essentially.
You know what I'm saying? That's the dope shit. And it's funny because I think those are the little details when we talk about like overanalyzation versus being very detail oriented and the positives of that, right? I feel like those are little details that even if you don't get it, and I feel like most listeners won't get it. You know what I'm saying? Or won't pick up on
And
it,
that-
but it's the shit that still matters because it seeps into
I
you.
was talking to Lady London. Shout out to Lady London.
She's fucking
She's
dope.
oh man,
Oh, my
and
God.
she's a sweetheart too.
The
bro.
Aristotle of
Yeah,
bravado.
bravado.
Come
You know what I'm
on.
saying? We be talking about bars like nerds, bro. Like
Right.
we really be like. I remember I did this poem that Meek was gonna use for the 24/7 video, and I sent it to her. I was like, what you think about this joint? And I was saying it was like so many little tiny little lines that she's like, oh, I peeped that, I peeped that, I peeped that. Like, and she's like, man, niggas ain't even gonna get that. And I was like, I know, right? But she's like, that shit's fire though. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's cool when like you got that little small group of people that will get a line, but you also kind of wish that everybody was in on the joke too. You know what I'm saying?
Right. How much percentage of your music would you say is that?
Man, it's tricky because a lot of times I'll say something and it's like it'll just kind of be like nobody's really.
Right. What's the illest shit you think you ever wrote? Like, what's the one that when you look back at everything that you like, God,
That's a
damn.
lot, bro. That's a lot. I think that they could literally be like a whole book of them joints. Like I done seen a lot of stuff, and I'm talking about Young Guru. People like Young Guru was hit me with a line that I said on like a self-made project, like, bro, this is crazy. You know what I'm saying? And that's Jay-Z's engineer. Like, you know what I'm saying? So I feel like I got a lot of those. I wouldn't even be able to pick one for real.
Right. Don't lose that, and I know sometimes as a creative you can question like, is it even worth it? Because you could go the other way very easy.
Yeah.
But I think this is the thing that makes you this is the difference between music that we listen to for the moment and things that we still gonna be listening to 20, 25 years from now.
Yeah, hopefully you're right.
Nah, absolutely right. I know I'm right. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
A couple things, and if you want to know about your life or any artist, like you just listen to the music, right? So it's something I picked up on. You talk about taxes a lot
Right.
on this album, right? Like, we buying Prada, Balenciaga like it's nada, and the Ferrari, my fear God, and tax problems.
Right.
The whip is bullet repellent. They're gonna kill me with the tax.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I roll something. I root for those that don't support me. Don't got homies. The IRS kind of close to me.
Yeah.
What's going on? What's
They
the
going,
real?
they be going crazy. They've been going crazy for years. As soon as you get, if you young and getting money, they on your ass. You know what I'm saying? That's just real talk. And I remember like even Hov and Ross, they started getting to talking about the taxes. Oh, Hov is a big tax talking dude. Like it's a real thing, man. It's a real part of this hip hop thing. Like it ain't just running by whips with cash, bro. Like they on your line.
What is it? What is it that young artists you feel like? Because I think Kendrick kind of had that with on To Pimp a Butterfly, the song, the Wesley's Theory, like where it's just like, in school they don't teach you how to pay taxes.
Nah.
They'll teach you a lot of this math that you might not ever need or use, but something practical like paying taxes. What is it that you would say to young artists that you wish somebody told you coming into the game when it comes to how to deal with the IRS?
And I ain't even just IRS. It's just you just gotta. It's hard to manage everything. It's really hard to manage everything. Like it's not gonna be just you just gonna run it up and then you're gonna pay all these people. So like it's just hard to just watch everything and manage everything. Sure.
Right. BGM, man. What's the story behind BGM and Eric Bellinger's house? You've been tweeting a lot, bro. There's a lot of breadcrumbs in the tweets.
I told Eric he needs to be in the room when we tell that one. That one's a little crazy right there.
We could call him too, man. Eric on the phone right now.
I'm wait on that one real quick. I'm waiting.
Talk about some of these lines, man. I mean, again, I think the beauty of this album is like it's personal, it's conceptual, right? But again, the rapping is still A1. It goes back to what we were saying before. When you say things like "Goodbye, my baby, I abandon you," that's when you forced to care.
Right. Uh-huh.
I feel like that's one of those. Is it a reaction after you write that one? Like,
I'll be giggling sometimes. I'll write her and then keep going. But like I be knowing I'll take a time to reflect on the picture. Like you slick motherfucker, you know what I'm saying?
Nah, that's all, because I think again, like we hear things, there's certain lines that we hear, like we heard the "You Can't See Me" like Stevie Wonder 275 times.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like there's only so many ways you could flip that. But when the Hove goes, keep one eye open like CVS.
Yeah.
Or something like that. Like it's like you hear once. So this, like in all the years of rap, I never heard "Goodbye, my baby, I abandon you." That's when you're forced to care.
Right.
Or forced to care.
Yeah.
When if you abandon the baby, it goes to forced to care.
Yeah.
It's a ball, my bro. You got a gift.
I'm just like I'm cool with it.
The
Right.
gift.
I ain't gonna lie. I'm not gonna sit up here and lie to you. I'm ambitious.
No longer the apple of my eye. That's why my text ain't blue.
Yeah. Another one. Pretty good. Pretty good.
Good. Explain to me the juxtaposition of the two songs, the "Her Fault, My Fault," because I feel like that's like a central access.
Her fault is just, we said you saying a lot of we both saying things we don't mean, but you going too far. And you get in your feelings, and we might have to really rethink this whole thing. My fault is just it's like a long apology. This is just a really long apology, like it's really all my fault, but don't leave and break my heart, because that's messed up. Yeah, I'm wrong, but if you leave me, you're wrong. And that's messed up.
And then, when you kind of close out, and there's so much in here, man, we can get into a lot of it, but I think it's the type of thing that the listener has to sit with. And I think it's one of those things that keep you coming back, and then you start to realize more things about the story and peel back layers. Set You Free. I mean, you almost go out the same way you came in. I know
With Kelly.
Yeah. I know Black Bonnie's on the album. I know Pole Dancer's on the album, but Set You Free kind of, it feels like the bookends to those stories. So Kelly Price on both joints, like that, again, deliberate.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And then, talk about the process of, because I feel like that record, and you can explain it better than me, but like the process of a black man learning to love himself. Because you're like, yo, I see myself on TV, I'm unimpressed.
Yeah.
You think you love me, but I don't love me enough.
Yeah. I mean, it's a reality of being famous, being on the limelight. Imposter syndrome is what they call it. When you kind of question, like, why am I here? Am I even good enough? Like, these people, they will never know it's my talent. Maybe I'm really not talented. You know what I'm saying? Or you want my picture in the airport, but the person that you chasing down for this picture, I look in the mirror, I'm not really feeling this person right now. I'm not where I want to be. You know what I'm saying? I'm way behind where I want to be. I haven't really learned to fully love myself right now,
Right.
So that's just that, like, in a nutshell. Like, I see myself on the TV, I see myself, whatever, on Instagram, whatever, but I'm not really enthusiastic about the person that I'm becoming right now.
Are you in a better position now? Like at the end of this album, is this album healing? In a way,
I mean, it's about healing. You know what I'm saying? It's just, when love will set you free. Like self-love is the gateway to like self-realization and being your true self. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Because we talk about this, and I get that, right? Like not seeing yourself as people see you. You know what I'm saying? Being able to put yourself on that same pedestal because you have a bar for yourself or goals that you're trying to reach that people may never see. But on the flip side, especially on this tour, I know you see it, the people in the front row, the women crying because certain songs or lyrics hit them so hard. The folks with Wale lyrics tatted on them because it meant so much. Like, obviously, you see that side of it as well, right?
Right, absolutely. That's always good. I mean, I've had that for quite some time,
Yeah.
But we always want to keep going and get going and going and going. And I mean, that's the goal, is to just, to continue to prosper and flourish and touch more people.
Right. Nah, man. Look, and I say this to say it, and it really matters about how any of us feel about each other, man. But I say this when you ain't around, dog. I say it to your face when you're here. I think when it's all said and done, you're one of the all-time greats.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
For what you put into this.
Thank you.
And it's not just 6 albums. I mean, we've got countless mixtapes.
20 projects.
It's insane. And really it boils down to each one has a level of detail or, you could tell that, no matter what song is your favorite, like it's somebody who cared
Right.
and put care into
Absolutely.
making this, because the attention to detail
Absolutely.
and wanting to elevate the ball, if not just for yourself, for the guys who come after you.
Yep.
And you know what I'm saying, to not drop the baton from the guys who came before you.
And try to make the culture look as good as possible, how I see it.
Right. Nah, man, you definitely did that, man. We wish you all the success. We'll come back. You welcome here anytime, man. Like,
Thank
we
you
could just
very
talk
much.
about rap.
I'll be back very soon. I got some things going on and more things to talk about. So I got to wait.
Nah, man, it's all good. Yo, Wale, man, thank you for coming through, my brother.
Thank you.
All right.
My man.
Yo, good luck with this album. Yo, y'all should check it out. Wow, that's crazy.
In stores now, you know what I'm saying? Make sure y'all get that twice on every streaming platform. And yeah, that's my bad. Wow, that's crazy everywhere. Come check it in, tap in. You know what I'm saying? Wale.
And it's For the Record. Check us out next week. Peace.